You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, we are in that weird moment in February where it's like a lovey-dovey February, which I'm so excited about. But some people have different thoughts about it. It's that Valentine's Day, weekend, post-weekend, week, whatever. It's that time. And I love it because, as you all know, my 8th anniversary is this year, and it's the day before Valentine's Day. And so this past weekend, I spent a lot of time going out to great dinners, romantic dinners, good feelings. We went to this French restaurant that is really nice. I try to pronounce it every time. It's Farishika, whatever it's called, but it's really nice. And it's in Old City. It's on 233 Chestnut Street in Philly. And I always mess up and ruin the name, but it's French, and it was really good. We had escargot, we had mussels, we had oysters, which we were eating with another couple of my good friends who I went to college with. She likes oysters, and so she was just like explaining it. But Barry and I are not like crazy oyster people, but we sometimes like it. Mr. Johnson is more of an escargot person, so he likes escargot. And I like mussels. I like escargot too, but I like mussels a lot. But we had a good time. We had really good food. And of course we had duck, because every time I have French food, I have to have duck and other things. But duck is just always like the titillating thing. I think steak and frites is kind of basic. It's just like fries and steak is, And I'm trying to do every time I go out to eat, I always like do something that's like short rib or something like really heavy. But I try to mix it up, but I'm always scared I'm not going to be full, and I'm always super full. So I'm trying to do different things. But it was very good. The food was divine. Saturday, we went to Irwin's upstairs, which is at Bach, which I hadn't been there, but I've always heard good things about the restaurant. But I went, and it was just such an interesting experience because it's like in this old school, and they have all these small stores now. It's not a school anymore, but they have all these mini shops and other things downstairs, and then upstairs is the restaurant, which is beautiful. It's phenomenal. It's very different. But the food was great. It was a combination of pastas, and we had fish, and we had it was a branzino, and it was a lamb shank, and then we had this really good chicken. It was crazy. And then, of course, Valentine's, we're doing this crazy tasting menu at Musie's and all of the great stuff that's going to come with that. So it's just been a very loving time. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that The Griot, which is a publication that I love, owned by the incredible Byron Allen, but also a Black-owned publication, they did a special feature on Us a Couple, which is interesting because they're just kind of like, who cares about our relationship in that way? But I'm always reminded, and you all have told me personally, that, for Black gay couples that are both Black, two Black young men that are successful, that is still in society and media, and not something that's like embraced or not as promoted as much. Not to say that gay couples are not as promoted as much, but they are. But seeing two Black, young, bright, brilliant men together in a loving relationship, and even married at that, is something that is still a wonder to people. And it's not that many people who can say that. One person who I won't name in this episode that I can't stand, he's now his second marriage now. Congratulations to him. But at least he married two Black men. Like, it's hard, but good to him, right? Like, it's hard to see those images, to find them. Not hard to have them, but hard to find them often. And so anytime there is those opportunities like that, where people ask us to do certain things, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, depending on what it is. Like, there's also that fine line of being exploited, right? Like, I don't want us to be exoticized. And I think Mr. Johnson agrees. He's very much like they reached out to me and said, hey, we're doing this special. And I was like, well, it's a black owned publication. And the writer, her name is Myasia, who is a Grammy nominated artist, but now she's a journalist and she's incredible. And she was just saying that there's this really great Mighty Love series that they're doing. And oftentimes I will look at some of these sections that do Black Love series and they don't include Black gay men. And when they do, we're always dating a white guy, which again, there's nothing against interracial relationships. It's just that when you don't see that kind of Black love, they almost treat it as if it doesn't exist. So I'm very happy that we were in this and we were spotlighted. Link is in the bio in my Instagram if you want to see the feature, but it's really cute. We talk about just what makes our love resilient and how we've been together for 8 long years, and which is nearly a decade, and what keeps us excited. And pretty much it's always have fun. Always don't forget to have fun is important. Relationships, time, energy, everyone has to work and do things, but never forget to have fun, because that's part of love in relationships, is having fun, doing things you like to do, right? Yes, there's supporting each other through tough times and hard times and paying bills and investing in things. All of that stuff is important. Absolutely. But you also have to just make sure that you're having fun and having joy, because if this is the person you're going to be with for the rest of your life, you want it to be someone that you care about. And I think that is important. I think sometimes I've seen other relationships, and I'm not trying to be a relationship expert, but I'm just saying, people look at me and they say, Ernest, you're so confident, you're so successful, and, what keeps you going? I mean, good sex, good food, sleep, and being honest and real. And also, good skin products. And I've been allegedly born with good genes, according to my bestie Amanda. She always looks at my pictures. I just be putting pictures up on Instagram, being cute. And she'll just be like, ugh, just look at your skin, just flawless. And there's no makeup. People be looking at me like, oh, what fair? I do not wear makeup. And there's no disrespect to people that wear makeup. Men, non-binary people, whomever. Makeup is not a sin. I am not trashing makeup. I just want people to know that I don't wear makeup. And I mean, that might be a flex as my brother, my younger brother, he always says that about me. Sometimes I'll say stuff subtly to him. He'll be like, see, that's a flex, Ernest. And I'm like, okay, fine, kid. I think it was a flex where I said something to him, and we was out talking, and he was just like, oh, he said something about cologne. He was like, oh, well, I can never get the whatever. I said, oh, there's nothing. I could just cash up that to you. He's like, oh, that's such a flex. So you just cash that back. I was like, yeah, do you want me to cash up you $100? He's like, and then I cash up him $100, and that was that. But yes, I do sometimes do that. But I often will give advice to people about skincare things and stuff. But I'm only can give skincare experts to like people who have melanin. I don't know what these techniques it may be different on different skin types, so I don't know. But for my melanated people, I try to give tips about our skin specifically, because there's a lot of us who think we don't need to use sunscreen. Let's be clear. Maybe we don't have to use the same level of SPF as our Caucasian friends and people, but we still need to have it. And so that's something that I think it has been in my regimen. I like to use a really good moisturizer, like a cream that I use from Ambi. It includes sunscreen in the moisturizer, so I don't feel like I have to put all these additional layers. But here I am acting like I'm a beauty expert. Let me stop. The point I'm making is that I don't even know what the fucking point I was trying to make. Long story short, I will just say that we, as a couple, but Mr. Johnson and I are very much people who are very selective about what we choose to be public about in our as far as our relationship. Like, we're not trying to be exploited in that way where we're always, that couple. Because you see a lot of people do that out there. And there's no shade, but I feel like if you're so busy, like, putting your relationship out in front of people, are you actually enjoying it? I like to keep my friendships and my relationships what I call known, but not everybody's business. Does that make sense? I think the issue I see in a lot of relationships, and look at me being a relationship expert. I'm just giving with y'all what I know, because people ask me, how do I do it? I'm just telling you what I do. If use it, lose it, or use it, let it stick or don't let it apply. Whatever it is, I'm just putting it out there. But for me, what's been important is, I think there are so many different ways that people treat relationships. There are people who are like, oh, I don't want anyone to know I'm a relationship. I keep my stuff super private. There's ways to keep something private, but without making it be a secret. And I think in relationships I've been in, as a black queer man, I've been in interesting relationships. I've been with people who are completely in the closet. I mean, in the past, and it was complicated, right? DL situations, all that stuff, all of those different scenarios. And I was always told different excuses and rationales, and everyone have their reasons, okay? So I'm not judging in that. But what I'm saying is that I think as someone who's been through different levels of relationships where people want to keep it on the low or keep it discreet, what I've learned in those situations is that they don't often end well. I think that the important thing is that people should know your status. I think people should know that you're in a relationship if you're in a relationship. I think that people should know that the person exists if they're a part of your life. I think it's inauthentic, in my opinion, to live in a world where you are in love with somebody, you're with somebody, and no one knows the person exists. It's just a mystery person out there in the universe floating. I personally think that's weird. If you're in love with somebody and you trust that person, no one can intercept. No one can get in that. I hear all types of weird stories about people, doing all these hiding people and things. I just think that if you gotta hide something, there's shame behind it. Even if you say it's not, there must be something there. I have met several of my homegirls who've been in relationships with dudes that were like, look, we should keep this on the low, and they thought it was a thing. Whenever I see cishet straight people, that are cisgender, that are having these very like DL quote unquote relationships, I'm like, why? Because I know people who are in positions that are queer, right? That there are legal reasons why. There might be religious reasons why that can literally cause them to lose their jobs or cause harm. Remember, we don't have the Equality Act in all 50 states, in all municipalities. So in some cases, right, if you live, let's say in Pennsylvania, not talking about Philadelphia County or Harrisburg or Pittsburgh, but you might live in these little bumblefuck ass counties. There is no protections if you are gay, right? You can legally get married, right? The Constitution, the Supreme Court allows for marriage equality. But what they don't protect is discrimination, housing discrimination, employment discrimination, other aspects. I think employment discrimination has changed, but there's still other types of discrimination you can still face in parts of parts of Pennsylvania and other parts of the country just for being gay. So I can understand people who are in circumstances like that. However, other folks out here in these streets that are in positions and areas that do not cause that kind of harm, and you're talking to people and you're telling people this, that, and the third, I'm just saying that is situations, that type of double identity, two personas, two hats. Listen, I've been there. Wearing, you gotta be this way for other people, this way. All of those multiple identities and personas, it fucks with you. It really do. It really do. I remember many, many years ago, okay, before 8 years, I was in situations where, I just have dealt with situations of like having to keep a relationship on the low, keeping a situation on the hush because, people couldn't know because of other things. And then find out people couldn't know because you had somebody else on the other side of town. Like I've had homegirls who had people who had whole children and marriages and shit. And you like, wait a minute, that's why you was keeping on the low. It's never okay, right? And so I think it's very important to have a relationship where people know your status. People know what's up. Because also what's important about that is that that's sometimes how you can create boundaries. Now, mind you, hoes don't care about boundaries, but some people who are not trying to be a hoe do, and they will respect that. So if you out and you got a ring on, if you're married or engaged, but if you're, got a relationship with somebody's flirting with you might say simply, hey, I'm not in that type of time. I'm in a relationship, yada, yada. Some people might say, some people, right, respectful people, because there are still some of those people left, okay, that would just simply say, hey, I'm with someone. I'm not I don't want to give off the wrong impression. And you keep it like that. But if you're in a situation where everything's on the low, nobody know, hell, if people can go through your Instagram page and find out, your social find out, they'd be like, oh, that person with somebody. Let me leave that alone. Just, this is a way to keep a level of space and peace and boundaries sometimes, I think. And that's my opinion. But this whole idea of people thinking like, oh, I got to keep it on low because somebody might try to steal my man or steal my woman or whatever. Listen, if the person wants to be with you for you, they are going to be with you for you. Okay? There is nothing that anyone can do to disrupt what you got going on. A house is never broken if it wasn't already broken. You understand? Like, that's what I was told from, listen, mama, grandma, folks. If the house was, you listen, nobody can wreck your house. The commitment in your relationship is between you and your partner. No one else can break that except for the person that decided to break those vows. I'm not defending hoes. I'm just saying that people that go out and do what they do and whatever their situation is, that is an understanding and an agreement for that person. Okay? Like, even with the Monica Lewinsky stuff, people used to always say Monica Lewinsky wrecked that marriage. No, Monica did not. Bill did. Bill made the vows. Bill made the decision to keep messing with Monica. Monica was wrong for what she did, but Monica did not act alone. So the whole she a whole record, she was stealing somebody's man. You can't steal nothing that didn't want to be stolen when it comes to the heart. Now, products get stolen. People don't get stolen unless you're into human trafficking. You're literally stealing people. But romantically and relationship-wise, that's a choice. Period. Some people hearing this right now, and either they mad or they glad. But I just want to set the record straight. So I believe that when you have trust in your relationship, there's none of those insecurities or fears. I feel like if you got to guard something, hide something, all of that, there's insecurities there. There's real, emotional distrust there. Maybe I should have a whole separate podcast about relationships, but not today. I say all this to say trust matters, transparency matters, and you need to be comfortable and open, because that will do more. The truth will set you more free in your relationship than having all of these questionable things lurking and people don't know who you with and da 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 da. Let me be clear. I'm somebody who's not always this me and my man every day, but I have a man, right? Everybody knows I'm married. Everybody knows what it's giving. It's not a mystery. There's some people out here, I'm like, you married? I never knew. Not that I need to know all the details, but I do feel like it says something when you're out in these streets and you don't have your wedding ring on, or you out in these streets and you in a long-term relationship with somebody and you didn't tell anybody in the room and you got people all around you. Listen, there's a lot of people that do that out there. I'm not calling people out, but I just think that creates problems, and that speaks about the status and the circumstances in a healthy relationship. And that has nothing to do with somebody trying to take something. It's all about you not trying to break something. Break the news to people that you're in a relationship. But I digress. That being said, I'm happy I'm in 8 years. I'm happy that my entire professional career, I've been with the same person in this type of way, because, it's hard out here for Black queer men specifically, and in other groups too, but because we're oftentimes in this industry labeled as being, promiscuous and all of those things. But, for better or for worse, respectability, for politics playing when you're married to your partner, you in a long-term relationship with someone, the straights will be all like, oh, he with someone, so he doesn't want me, he wants him. And then they see my man and my man look better than them, and they be like, oh yeah, I can't compete with that. Well, you was never going to trade. But that's what happens in those situations sometimes. And I've noticed, sadly, it's weird, y'all, and I'm not like gassing it up because I think it's problematic. Let me be clear. I think that you shouldn't have to be in a relationship for people to give you a certain level of respect if you're queer or if you're a woman. I think it's sad that a lot of times people have to not be single in order for people to give them this level of boundaries of respect in professional settings. Now, the streets don't care. The streets don't care if you're in a relationship or not. They want what they want. They're going to try to get it. And you just have to tell them to back the fuck up, right? But in situations, in professional settings, it seems to be a very interesting culture that once you are married, the whole tone and tenor can change in certain dynamics. At least that's from my experience. That might be different for other people. But I just say, as a young Black man who's queer that's married, I've noticed a lot of cishet people in the professional space don't treat me the way they did before they knew I was married or in a long-term relationship. I just have noticed that even with certain straight men, like they find out I'm married, they're like, okay, for some reason, something comes upon them that's like, oh, he doesn't want me, even if I never ever wanted them. But there's always this weirdness with straight men. Not all straight men, of course, but in certain situations, I've noticed there's always this standoffishness. But then once they find out you got a man, you got your own little life, or you come into some money and clout, they don't care. They tend to the homophobia in certain cases tend to settle down a little bit or whatever. I'm just talking from observation. What do I know? Just talking from experience, lived experience, important part. So yeah, but I say all that to say this Valentine's Day week has been lovely. It's been a great time. Definitely have been so relieving. And then Mr. Johnson has a birthday at the end of this week. So this month has always been big because, like I said, all these Aquariuses. So Mr. Johnson has a birthday coming up. We're going to have a big old little birthday party for a group of friends. We didn't want to make a big party. So I know people might listen to this and be like, where was my invite? It's because it literally was not that many people. Like, he did not want to have a big old party. Because, I mean, we're still in the pandemic, y'all. I mean, we still are, which is, I sometimes forget. I think I forget because the way that, I don't want to say the media, but I do think the way that we talk about it, right? There's this moment where there's a big wave and everyone is like, bundling up. And then there's like this moment. But I'm like, I hope we're getting close to herd immunity. I hope there's something to come from all of this. Who knows? Like, it just seems like things are slightly slowing down. I'm hearing about states like New York and others that are going to start lifting the ban on the masks. I don't know how I feel about that yet. All I know is that as long as I keep mine on in certain settings, I will. Because to be honest with you, this entire pandemic season, I have been avoiding being sick in general. Like, COVID's going around, whatever, and that's still a problem, right? But outside of the scare of COVID, I haven't had other problems because of wearing a mask. Like, washing my hands, which I've already been doing, but also just the mere fact of wearing a mask and also not going out as much or being very mindful and, staying around people that are well. Sick people are staying the fuck home, and at least around me. I have not been sick. And I'm knocking on the wooden table right now, but I haven't had like a sore throat or runny nose or any high fevers or anything like that because in a way, the way that we're acting around this pandemic, I almost kind of feel like we should be acting like this in general for public health in general. Like maybe, down the road, masks all the time may not be the thing to do, but there might be some ways that we can incorporate this in our everyday living beyond the whole scope of the pandemic. Because let's be clear, COVID is a part of our life, like the way that the common flu is. Like, it's it's going to be integrated in our life. We're never going to do everything the exact same again. I hope that Uber Pool never the fuck comes back, right? Hope for that, right? But as far as everything else goes, I do think there's ways to incorporate masks. I feel like if I'm at a really, really, like if I'm in I don't know the next time I'm going to really ride public transportation personally. But, if I'm getting on a bus or I'm getting on certain things, I feel like that, or even planes, right? Because let's be clear, Naomi Campbell, right, was teaching us long before the pandemic that planes were nasty and they were places where people could get sick. And the way that Naomi Campbell used to spray down those seats and do all that, there's a viral video on Twitter, look it up, of Naomi Campbell's hygiene for riding on planes. This is before the pandemic, y'all. She was trying to tell us something. I feel like we should incorporate this forever on planes and public transportation. Like, I'm going to keep a mask with me at all times moving forward, probably for the rest of my life. I'm going to wear a mask in certain areas. If it's too many people and your breath stink or something ain't right, I'm putting the mask on. Don't feel no type of way. I'm just going to put one on because I'm just like, it's too much going on out here. I'm going to need to put a mask on. But as far as general, outdoor activities and stuff, probably not as much at a certain point. But I do think the mask is something we can incorporate, especially around winter, flu season, things like that. We can start, putting those on around the time we start going holiday shopping or grocery shopping during flu season. And I remember when I was at Penn that there were Asian students that I knew, they were international, that was wearing masks during flu season. And this is way before the pandemic. They were wearing masks on campus during winter. And people used to say, oh, that's weird. Why are they doing that? But they kind of had this in this type of surgical mask. This was like a standard norm for them and how they felt about the weather and about sick, or even if they were under the weather, that was like a norm. It wasn't for us. Even before the pandemic, I remember seeing Asians in Philly wearing masks before the whole pandemic thing was really taking off. And I just was like, oh, this is like, why are they wearing, like, is this a real thing? Like, what are they hearing that we're not hearing? And it was like people was wearing those masks and they were communicating to people. And the next thing you know, here's the whole world doing it now. So there's just certain things that I am going to pick up from this entire experience. I mean, the pandemic is still going on. People are still dying by the thousands every day. It's not over, but it's not clearly on the same level of heightened security risk and fear that we had 2 years ago. But who's to say? We're one variant away from this conversation being obsolete, because I feel like a couple of months ago, before Omicron, we were saying the same thing. And shit, it might be Alpha Omega in 3 or 4 weeks, and the conversation might change. One thing I did hear is that the CDC reported that apparently boosters wane every 4 months. So I'm not going to keep boostering myself up unless I sense that there might be a need to do it. So if there are cases going up after my 4 months, I got it at the end of November around Thanksgiving. But if next month sometime the cases are increasing, I might go get another booster. We'll see. But I'm just keeping an eye on it, keeping an eye on this whole situation to figure out, like, if it's, whatever. Because everyone's getting boosted right now or just getting everything else, or getting just vaccinated, because some people still haven't gotten vaccinated yet, goddamn it. Like, maybe that's why things are calming down, but could things spike if people don't re-up on boosters in the next couple of months? Yikes! We don't know. So I'm just keeping my eye open and seeing what's going on, but that's out there now. Apparently every 4 months, they're saying. I would hope that we could get to a point that we don't have to keep getting vaccinations like every single, like 3 times a year. I hope we can get to a point where people just this really goes down, where we don't have to keep making this a thing. But until then, listen, I'm going to do what I got to do to stay alive and stay well. Because so far, it's been good. So far, so good. And that's how we're going to keep it. I've been COVID-free. I've been blessed to be COVID-free this entire time. I'm just happy to be alive and to be well. And I just want more people too. So just keep doing what needs to be done, y'all. Please. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there, but we got to, not lose our eyes off the prize, because too much has already been lost. And we can't afford to lose anymore, to be honest. We really can't. Shout out to Philadelphia for mandating that people must be fully vaccinated in order to go out to eat. You all know I have my card. Go to theshopcard.com to get you a pocket-sized vaccination card. You can use my discount code Ernestly, which is all caps, no spaces, ERNESTPHILLY, Ernestly. Use that and save. So lots going on. A lot of people have been just really hyping up all the stuff that's been going on around. I would just say some of the stuff, because there's a lot been happening. I've been staying woke on some of the things that's been happening. I don't know which part I want to talk about. I guess I will. I'll talk about Amir Locke. So you all know that Amir Locke is the young black man who was killed in a no-knock police raid in Minneapolis, Minnesota last week. He was minding his business. He was asleep. He was innocent. He was in bed, and the police decided to bust in, and pretty much they had a no-knock warrant, which basically allows them to bust in with weapons and raid through. And in this case, the person they were looking for, which we will later find out to be his cousin, but his cousin wasn't there, they saw him. And he had a gun in his possession, which he was able to carry. He had every right to in self-defense. And they shoot him immediately. They don't identify him, nothing. And he dies. And of course, Minneapolis is outraged. The people are outraged because, for them, their whole mentality is, why did this happen? And I'm going to get to why this was a question of why people ask, why did this happen? Okay. Um, because so much has happened since all of this has taken place. The mayor, who his name is Jacob Frey, he put out let's back this up. In Minneapolis, George Floyd, that was the same city where George Floyd was killed, which prompted, of course, the Black Lives Matter protests that happened in the racial uprisings of 2020. Jacob Frey was the mayor then. He's the mayor now. He, in light of that, made several proposals and police reform moves and changes. And one of them was that he was going to ban no-knock warrants from happening. So when that was proposed, people were excited. People were like, oh, yes, ban no-knocks, all these things. He just made all these sweeping promises of reform and change and all of this stuff. And people were really, in Minneapolis, like, yeah, change is coming. Well, let's talk a little bit about what actually happened, right? And this is why I'm at a point where I do feel like I am pretty much an abolitionist. I'm really am at a point where I don't see police reform. I don't think police reform is possible. I don't think it makes sense anymore. I don't think it ever did. But I think where I'm at now, there's been enough evidence and proof that shows that police reform is a sham and arguably a grift. And I think there's been so much said about policy change, but we've ignored the elephant in the room that policy change around police reform cannot work. The reform cannot reform without the police, right? So I think the problem is that there are people coming up with great policies or trying to come up with good policies, or at least they propose good policies, but then something goes wrong and we don't understand how we get there. Well, I'm going to explain to you all in a piece that I wrote for Rolling Stone that I question after the Amir Locke killing, is police reform matter? Is that the way to go? Right? And that was a real question I had. But in my piece, the short answer is no. Police reform is not the way to go. And it's because of several factors that show in real time that even after 2020, even after the racial uprisings, after all of the conversations, the fights, the protests, all of that stuff that we were talking about, that we did, I don't know if police reform is a solution. I don't. I question it. And I don't think it is at this point. So let's just give an example. Let me just explain how police reform fucked up this entire situation to how we lost this black man, Amir Locke. Let's just go from 2020. No-knock warrants are the devil, right? Police just goes in. They don't account for anything. Who could be in that house? What could be the cause if they bust in someone's house? They don't know who could be there, and people die. Black people die. People die when the police raid. No knocks are like happening thousands upon thousands of times a year. It's a fucking problem, right? So that's an issue, right? They don't never know who it is. They just shoot. Anybody could wake up, pop off. Somebody could use something in self-defense, and then automatically the police go, oh, that's a threat, and they shoot them. But what if the person didn't know who the fuck y'all were? If anybody was a bust in my house, shit, I would probably be the same way. And then you do it in the middle of the night. So Amir was asleep. This was in the wee hours of the damn mid-morning night, right? So you're doing this to somebody in the middle. So they don't even have the ability to respectfully surrender or at least come to the door or at least communicate because it's literally while they're damn near sleep. It's traumatic. So let's get into this. So first of all, no knocks are trash. We know this. In 2020, that is what killed Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor died in Kentucky as a result of the no knock. She was you know, RNA. She was a black woman who was in the healthcare profession. She, had bright dreams. Young black woman. And No Knock came in. She was there with her boyfriend, her partner at the time, who had his, had a warrant for his arrest, but she wasn't a part of that. But she died. He didn't. She died. And in that moment, that no knock was the policy to ban no knocks. Many police reformists, including the organization that you all know now as Campaign Zero, which is led by D. Ray McKesson. We'll get on his ass in a minute. But D. Ray and Campaign Zero, as an entity, as an organization, as a police reform organization, was pushing the narrative that we should ban no knocks because banning no knocks would stop the death of people like Breonna Taylor. That was the narrative, okay? So they campaigned that. And of course, they campaigned that through their 8 Can't Wait campaign, which was a disaster. But that narrative of, banning police, no knocks from police was a part of the rhetoric. So Jacob Frey in Minneapolis during George Floyd's death, which George Floyd died from police brutality, okay? That was not a police no-knock situation. The police just were pigs. They got on this man. They suffocated him to death. Jacob Frey, the mayor at the time, Jacob Frey at the time made this guarantee of no knocks. That was what he said in Minneapolis. Banning no knocks, everybody was like, yes. Okay, that's what happened in Minneapolis in 2020. Now let's move to what happened in Kentucky. People like D. Ray and others were lobbying for something called Breonna's Law. Breonna's Law was this plan that they said they were going to ban no knocks and that they were going to call for police officers who were out there to be drugged, during a no-knock situation or, prior drug testing of officers and whatnot. That was a part of this bill. Well, this is what happens in situations where you try to do police reform. The state rep, a black woman who was pushing this, brought it to the state house. The legislators over there in Kentucky, the state legislation, which at that time was majority Republican, their governor, Andy Beshear, he is a Democrat. But at the time, in Kentucky, those reformists were like, we want to make this happen. Well, the Senate bill that ended up happening took out the ban. They didn't say ban, they said restricts. Language matters. They said restricts in certain situations. So in other words, the no knocks would be restricted only in certain situations or whatever. Now, when they meant that in certain situations, it was basically giving the police the power to determine, when would those emergency cases or particular situations allow them to do it. It's at the discretion of the police, not anyone else. In order for police reform to work to people, they have to trust the police. Some people listening to this podcast might think that they can trust the police. Not me. I can't. But let's entertain this. The idea is that they will believe that the police would use discretion. But wasn't police supposed to be using discretion anyway? Don't police supposed to be using rational discretion anyway? You mean to say or imply that before this policy, police were just busting indoors, killing people without discretion? I mean, wasn't that always the aha duh moment? But no, this bill says, we're restricting it, but only under certain circumstances. But that is open-ended. Anything can happen. That doesn't specify enough. But let's go on. This watered-down version happens. It omits anything about drug testing these people because, the influence of drugs can get people trigger-friendly. We know how that goes down. Not in this case. They're not going to drug test. They're taking it all down. They stripped Breonna's name off of it. It's called Senate Bill something, something, something. That gets passed, and then the governor of Kentucky signs it. So basically, they signed this bill with Breonna's family present. It's no longer called Breonna's Law. It's called something else, but it's not Breonna's Law. It doesn't ban no knocks. It restricts it only under certain circumstances. Disclaimer that matters. And now that's what happens in Kentucky. You all see what the problem with that is. It's like, well, God damn it. Basically, police can now find a loophole. Let's go back to Minneapolis. we find out that actually when, Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis, was supposed to be changing that policy, he actually kind of loosely interpreted and was like, oh, actually, it's under certain circumstances. And so no one ever found out what those circumstances were. But what we found out is that no-knock warrants exceeded the number in the past couple of weeks, had exceeded the number of actual regular warrants. And we don't even know if there was more because some of these warrants are sealed from the public. So there could be more no-knock warrants that were issued, but we knew that it actually exceeded the number of regular warrants that was given in this time frame. So here we are, 2 years later, Amir Locke has died from a reckless no-knock. Now the people of Minneapolis are pissed off. Protesters, everyone's upset. Jacob Frey is now saying, we're going to bring some outside people to look into the situation. And who does he bring? He brings DeRay McKesson of Campaign Zero and some scholarly wonk to look into this no-knock policy and help them figure it out. So let me explain why that's a bunch of bullshit and how this type of shit is what happens oftentimes with police reform. Here's how this cycle goes. A death happens, right? A black person dies unlawfully from the police in a questionable manner. The elected officials of the city officials say, we're going to look into the matter. And then here comes the part where the PR people say, oh, so-and-so spent with members of the African-American community and civil rights leaders to discuss. That's always what they do. They always talk to leaders and they bring outside help, right? Reformists, people like DeRay and people like that who's supposed to come in and help them fix their problem. And then what happens is that those individuals go in, right? Because they don't get community input. They barely get community input to overhaul, right? These outsiders are supposed to be experts in things that the people, right? The people in the streets living through the shit that are not to them, right? So they go on with this policy. They start to look into it and look into the problem and come up with a policy. So everything is, we got to change policies and laws. Cool. They create the policy and law. But then something happens in that policy shaping. Politics happen. Democrats versus Republicans. People who get money from police unions. All of these influences shape the policy. So what was that robust policy that you thought was going to kick ass gets watered down. And then the policy gets voted on and enacted and implemented. And then reformists walk around and say, look, we made change. And then Democrats call it a victory and politicians act like they did something great. Because what happens is that the policy is watered down. And when we talk about a watered down policy, that means a policy that has a loophole. So there's always a loophole. And then it's that very loophole that the police uses to their advantage, and then someone else gets shot, and then this shit happens all over again. That's exactly what happened with No Knocks in the past 2 years, is that these activists who weren't even activists, right? Let me back this up. The activists on the ground were ignored, right? But the police reformists, right? Those nonprofit, those organizations that get checks and contracts to go out and do this work, they make money, okay? They make money. They make money off of this. And then who else makes money? Politicians, right? They campaign off of this type of stuff to fundraise for their re-elections. Jacob Frey ran for re-election and got his re-election off of what happened in 2020 with George Floyd. And then let's not forget about the police unions, right? Because the police unions, they raise money hyping up fear that these laws are going to hurt them, and they get their polices riled up and mad, and then everything else goes to shit. The only people who don't benefit from this are the people, the communities impacted by this. Everybody else makes money. Everybody else benefits from more opportunities and clout. Campaign Zero, right, under DeRay McKesson, this police reform that they're pushing, they benefit from this as an institution. He gets to keep staying employed, going out here trying to, stop fires that are not really, permanent stops, but just a little Band-Aid on some really bloody ass bruises. He gets to look like a problem solver. Politicians use people like him for good PR and press for themselves, and everybody else keeps getting fucked over. The police benefit because they get to use their union money to sway differences. How do we know this? Let's move back to Kentucky real quick. So in Kentucky, the governor, Andy, right, the Democrat, he was endorsed by the FOP in 2019 for governor. The FOP is the Fraternal Order of Police. It is the nation's most prominent police union in the country. They endorsed Donald Trump for president and his law and order type of brutish mentality both times. The FOP is a police union that has had a history of protecting police officers in spite of all their fuckery. A police officer can be guilty as fuck, they'll still stand by them. Police officers can be putting up racist Facebook posts and social media posts with Confederate flags and all kind of bullshit, and they're going to still stand by them and defend them to keep their jobs. How do I know? Because I live in Philadelphia, and the FOP in Philadelphia do that shit all the time. This is what those police unions do. However, both Republicans and Democrats get money from the FOP. They get money from police unions. They're not invested as a collective and trying to do anything to go against police reform. Now, some people, right, like Krasner and a couple other Democrats like Jordan Harris, they don't get money from the FOP. But a lot of your favorite politicians have, right? You know, Mayor Jim Kenney has gotten money from the FOP. Joanna McClinton, who's the black woman that y'all are saying is the leader of the Democratic Party in Pennsylvania, she got money from the state FOP. Not the Philadelphia FOP, but that's not because she's there. She gets it from the state FOP. Josh Shapiro's got money from FOP, who's running for the governor, and he's a Democrat. Yes, some of your faves have been fucking up and getting money from the FOP, and you should ask them, excuse me, are you getting money from the FOP? Why? Ask your favorite Democrat why they're doing it. The ones that claim they're progressive, ask them, how do they consider themselves a progressive, but they're getting money from the Fraternal Order of the Police? Ask them those questions today. That's your homework assignment. Ask your local state representative, city council person, if they're getting money from the FOP. You can even find out for yourself, because a lot of them sometimes lie. But you can find out for yourself. But I say all that to say, right, that they do get money, right? And let's be clear, money matters. Money shapes influence. Those police union lobby, right? They lobby legislators not to go hard on them. They lobby them not to drop the ball or drop the baton. It's influence. So it does not surprise me that those Republicans, those legislators who was working on Breonna's law watered it down because that FOP money made it that way. And that governor signed it knowing that it was weak as fuck because of the fact that he was also backed by the FOP. And he was a Democrat. So don't try to make it a Republican versus Democrat thing. Actually take some time to unpack and look at how the FOP has been operating in our communities for a long time. Black, white, in between, it don't matter. The FOP has penetrated itself in public policy. And there are many years where I thought that police reform and this stuff was a part of the process. We all have fallen for it. So I'm not judging anybody who this might come as a gut punch, because many years ago I thought that that's what elected officials had to do in order to make change. You know, the whole you got to be in a room and you got to be inside to do it. You know, I heard all of that. But the crazy part is that what we're seeing now with police reform is that none of that is actually happening. We're not actually seeing a real institutional change because it keeps getting watered down by the conflict of interest that is police and unions. How do you reform a system that does not want to reform itself? The police have shown that they are not interested in being reformed. Like, let's be clear. If police reform is to actually happen or exist, you have to believe that the police want to be checked. The police want to be told, I am not doing good, I want to do better, and I want consequences for my actions, and I want to lose money in situations to fund. They would have to literally ask for that to happen. Here's the thing. No institution with that much power is going to want to be checked at that level. How do we know? Look at how city council spends money. Look at how your school district spends money. None of these people want to have that level of check. You will have to force and demand it. There's no way that you can expect them to do so willy-nilly. It does not happen. So first off, let's stop acting like the police as an institution wants to change itself. It does not. If it did, it would have been did it. And if it did, we shouldn't have to fight them and protest them for decades on end to stop doing what they fucking do. So the answer is no. The police does not want to reform itself. Like, we know that off the jump. They do not want to change themselves. Not if their police unions is dealt with people who support people like Trump and support racists and defend racist behavior. No institution that wants to continue to protect racists within their industry and their union actually wants to change the way that their department is shaped. So when police officers say they want more accountability and change, they don't. They want to make examples out of a couple of bad apples so that we will not acknowledge that the tree to which those apples fall is fucking rotten. Like this is facts, right? This is straight up facts. I've never been so, I guess, liberated in my mindset about this until I've consistently have done the work to read and inform myself about it. The police is a problem, are a problem. They've been a problem. That's just what it is. People that want to go there and say, oh, I want to make a difference. I want to change something. Let me explain something to you. There has to be a better way. There is better ways. We should be spending our time and energy figuring out what those ways are. Because let me tell you something. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing multiple times and expecting a different result. We already know what happens with police reform. We've already seen the pattern. I just broke down to you all what happens every fucking time. We're never going to change anything the way the current system works, which means that to act as though it's so scary to consider what abolition is or what it can be is almost like thinking to yourself that police reform is an alternative that's been working. It's not been working. People are still dying. There's been no accountability, and we have to roll the dice and hope that the courts find these people guilty. Like, do you know how embarrassing it is to be in a country like America where you can see police officers go on trial and we know that they killed that person, and we're literally somewhere hoping that a jury is going to do the right thing? That is infuriating. We have to literally roll the dice. And most of the time, the dice never rolls in our favor. We don't oftentimes hit a lucky 7. We oftentimes get a fucking 4. Think about that. Think about how frustrating that is to have to see people grieve and die, and only 1, 2, 3, 4. You can count your fingers how many of those families saw legal justice when most of them see injustice. That's weird. That's wild. And that's what police reform has been doing. It's consistently been pushing out this idea that you can change policy and that's going to make them get in line. So what happens when the police don't follow the law? What happens when they step out of line, don't follow policies? Nothing happens. It's actually easier for a police officer to kill a regular civilian in this country than a regular person killing a civilian. It's actually easier for a police officer that kills somebody on something racist or whatever. If they go to trial, they're more likely to get off without any problems. Hell, they might turn around and get a raise before another regular civilian kills another civilian. So when you compare, black on black crime, which is by all means a pathological piece of bullshit. It's racial pathology used to try to act like black people are doing something that white people are doing. White people kill themselves more than they kill other races of people. Black people kill each other more than they kill other races of people. You know why? Because we are a racially segregated country. More black people live in their own quarters. White people live more in their corners. But when you talk about policing, there is a racial disparity in the per capita of black lives being killed by the police compared to white people on capita, right? White people might kill more people. Police might kill more white people than black people by numbers. But when you look at the per capita of it, black people are disproportionately being killed by the police more than white people. It's time to start looking at statistics. It's time to start waking the fuck up. There is a clear racial bias in policing in this country. And that is by design. And you cannot reform that shit. You cannot create laws and Rooney rules and policies for every fucking thing. When it comes to a matter of life and death and power and money, those factors will always manipulate the system. The only way that you can fix that system is to abolish that system. You can't fix an unjust system. You have to abolish it. Could you imagine if someone said, let's fix this racism? You can't fix racism. You have to end racism. You all are using the wrong words. Fixing something? How do you fix an inherently racist system? How? I'm waiting. How do you fix an inherently racist system? You have to end it. That's how you fix it. You have to end it. It can't exist. It can't exist the way it works. We will never be able to have a just society with the current state of policing. Like the current way that policing is done in America, it will never change if we do not end the way it works. That's just facts. If that's a radical idea, I guess it's a radical idea. But I think that we need something strong. We need something strong. And this is not strong enough. This isn't sticking. This isn't working. And that's what makes it infuriating. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes it infuriating. So yeah, that is that on that. So I say all this to bring up my next point, which is the point that is also relevant to this. I looked and I've noticed that, the Super Bowl happened this past weekend, right? Everybody's talking about the Super Bowl. Everybody's talking about taking a knee for Kaepernick, taking a stand against social injustice, yada, yada, yada. Listen, I didn't watch the Super Bowl. This is the consecutive year I have not. I've heard the LA Rams won, so Odell Beckham must finally have a ring. That's good for him, I suppose. I don't watch the games anymore. Let me say how bad I am at not watching NFL. I thought that the Rams were still the Baltimore Rams, because that's how bad I have not seen TV. So I was like, oh, go Baltimore, jokingly at my barbershop. And they were like, Baltimore? I was like, yeah, the Baltimore Rams. They was like, no, Ernest, it's the LA Rams. LA? The Rams are in LA? That's how much I have not been watching the NFL. I've been supporting the NFL. I thought that the Rams was still in Baltimore. Like, that's how completely unaware I am of what's going on in the NFL. All I know is what I see on headlines, and I don't even look at the headlines that much. I know that Tom Brady, Floridian slip, Tom Brady retired. I know that because it was trending on Twitter. I knew that he was a part of the Patriots, but someone told me he's part of Buccaneers, and that they won, and they lost this year. So I know that he switched teams based on Twitter, based on what I do see. But I thought the Rams were still in Baltimore. I did not know the Rams were part of LA. I didn't even know anything about that. That's how much I don't really fuck with the NFL, y'all. It was that bad. And that's cool. I'm proud of that. That's how y'all know I'm real. Because I was like, oh, Baltimore gonna win or something. And he was like, Baltimore. And that's how they said, oh, you really don't watch the NFL? I did not know that until this year. And I don't care that I'm dumb on the NFL. Because quite frankly, I think the NFL is dumb as fuck. So I don't need to educate myself on it like that. But what I will say is that, of course, I always hear about the halftime show. So it was Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, really disappointed about that, Eminem, Dr. Dre. They performed the halftime show. And that I know that people were talking about it. I didn't see the whole performances. I can't tell you anything. I can only hear what I've heard from reviews. Now, what stood out to me was that I read an article on Sunday, early on Sunday actually, and I was hearing that apparently the NFL was trying to stop making it super political. They wanted to water down the politics that was affiliated with the Super Bowl. They just like, oh, we can't have all this taking a knee. Dr. Dre don't say the police line, all that stuff. Dr. Dre said what the fuck he wanted to say, and Eminem apparently took a knee. Everybody's talking about it. Oh, Eminem took a knee. But see, people said he needs to explain why he took that knee, because it could be interpreted as him doing it for Tupac on the Tupac verse, which it can be symbolized about Tupac versus about Kaepernick. That's what people are saying. I mean, until Eminem actually expresses why he did it, he might express why he did it. It might be various reasons. But goddamn it, I don't care. And I think that's the thing and I tell this to white people specifically who's been like, well, what would you have wanted him to do? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Listen, the whole situation was damned from the jump. I don't know why the players going back and doing anything with the NFL while the NFL is in a massive lawsuit around racial discrimination of coaches. People keep trying to reform the NFL. I look at the NFL to say, well, like the police, you can't reform that racist system. They disproportionately have an institution that is almost like watching modern day slavery, except this time you're paying them $1 million slaves. You got all of these black men out here on this plantation, a football field, and they're kicking a ball, making money, and yet at the same time, they're bumping their heads, getting CTE, and other things that can create all types of nerve damage, right? You have situations of domestic abuse, a spoil of riches alcoholism, drug use, you name it, and they're in an environment where they're being exploited and their bodies are being exhausted so that a bunch of mostly white owners, right, can own them and profit off of them without giving a fuck about their social safety, their justice, their equity, or anything like that. These people are racist. These owners are racist, right? They're in bed with people like Donald Trump. They support this type of racist buffoonery. They have teams with black players because they don't see those black players as human, but as money makers for them. And we have seen this repeatedly. And everybody else under them, there's no ladder for black ownership or success or equity. And you're talking about a team and an industry that makes over billions of dollars. $16 billion the NFL as an institution has. They get to call themselves a non-fucking profit. And you act like the stuff that they're doing for the communities is good? When we all know that all of that is a tax write-off for them. And none of the real equity, labor, responsibility that they owe to those black athletes for being on that field, they will never give them. And that's supposed to be something to look at and smile? Oh my goodness, step your values up. Same people out here yelling about pay equity and improving the conditions of people are the same people that are letting the NFL slide. And let me tell you something. Complicity is hard, right? Complicity and being caught up in this shit is one thing when you have to deal with shit that you can't escape, right? There's like American capitalism, we're forced as Americans and living in this current global economy that we have to engage with capitalism at some fucking level. Like that's forced upon us. The NFL is not forced upon us. We do not have to watch the NFL. We do not have to support that institution. We really don't. There is nothing that legally or fundamentally binds us to having to support that institution. That's a choice. And if we can't make conscious decisions about the things we don't have to engage with, then how do we expect to turn over the shit that we need to change that is embedded in our life? And when I see people sit up and support the NFL, a lot of people that I know, I look at them and I say to myself, and this is why I can't trust you. I can't trust you when it comes to certain fights. Because I know that deep down inside, you will let certain things pass for your personal enjoyment and taste. I see why a lot of black people, right, in movement space, especially black women, will never put it all on the line for certain groups and entities because they know that those particular people will never, take a stand and stand up for what's right. I know that. I look at how complicit some of you all are and how y'all still rock with the NFL and can't let it go because you just like it. And then this lets me know that at the end of the day, you all let Kaepernick get thrown under the bus. You let him get blackballed. This black man stood up for his rights, stood up for rights of various people, right? He took a knee to raise attention around police brutality. That was before 2020 when it was sexy and cool. And you all sat up here, saw this man get blackballed, saw this injustice, and found 1,000 excuses and reasons to justify watching the NFL, to justify what happened to him, to say what he didn't matter, to say that he should have just not did it, to say all of these things. And then to see you all on Sunday get on social media and be like, oh, look at Eminem taking a knee. Eminem, you see this white man, this white multimillionaire who does not have anything to really lose, because he's not going to lose his job. Right? This man's white privilege, he's not going to lose anything doing it, to be honest. And let's be clear, he didn't do it the way Kaepernick did it. Let's be clear, to take a knee is to take a knee during the national anthem. That was what made it powerful. You're doing fucking, lose yourself, I think it said, lose yourself, and you're taking a knee during your own song? Ooh. And that's supposed to be a big deal. You all are trying so hard to make the NFL fetch. Y'all are trying so hard to make it look like it's woke. Look, they did that creative change commercial. Oh, look, they work with Jay-Z. And what did Jay-Z do? Remember that? Chestnut checkers. You don't know what, Jay-Z over there thinking of master plan. Y'all got to wait and see. And it's been how many years since, 3 to 4 years since all this? We ain't seen shit. More performers, more entertainment. He was a part of the PR stunt to keep the NFL relevant and looking woke. And everybody jumped on the bandwagon thinking that they could say that the NFL is making some changes. What the fuck changes have the NFL made? They're currently facing a lawsuit for racial discrimination and hiring practices. Where are all those black owners? Where are all those black coaches? Where are they? Where's all this institutional change? Where is it? Where are the resignations? Who's firing? Why is Rogers still represented? Why is he still the commissioner? Like, these are all the questions I have. Like, nothing's changing. Nothing has changed. It's been lip service. A $16 billion organization and y'all hype about this dumb shit. A couple of money going to HBCUs. This is the best a fucking $15, $16 billion nonprofit can do with its resources and allocations. You are impressed with that? We're never going to get to that line. And then, of course, right, I get labeled, right? Oh, you're bitter. You're so mean. Why are you so angry? Why are you so upset? Oh, I don't know, because people like me who have opinions continue to be suppressed and oppressed because of it. Because we're allowing institutions like NFL. If the NFL can get away with blackballing a black man like Kaepernick, what makes you think that any of these other corporations that you work for, you affiliate yourself, won't do the fucking same for you? And how are you going to feel when you want people to stand up for you? I look at Philadelphia and I see all these people shame folks and ask people to do something about gun violence, do something about the injustice in these systems. And all of those things are valid, right? But the crazy part is that how do you expect those same people that are complicit with the NFL, complicit with the police state, complicit with all these fucked up institutions to give a fuck about you or give a fuck about me for that matter? They don't. And the only way we can do that is that we have to take some real strong stances. And we also have to call shit out and stop getting caught up in the symbolism of shit. It's really frustrating. I'm not going to hold you. Like, it's frustrating because in the same breath, people will say, we need to see systemic change. But then in the same breath, we'll say the NFL has not done its part. And you will all say, it's not but is how we keep getting fucked over. But it's how we continue to keep seeing these problems persist. That but you keep pushing out of your mouth is why we keep having the problems we have. So if you're still pressed about the NFL and you act like you have to watch it, go ahead. But understand that when you have that in-office work discrimination, that lawsuit, that problem, that discrimination, understand when you're saying, why is no one supporting me, having my back? That same complicity that you're wrestling with right now with the NFL is the same they do in situations that are even more intense. If we can't stop watching the NFL and watching a football game on TV, it's hard for me to imagine us standing up for what matters in our lives daily. It's just what I gotta say. Think about your actions. If this makes you feel uncomfortable, good. Good. Because the only people making money in this situation right now are those, you know, the Eminems of the world, who a bunch of people are going to like him and they're going to stream Lose Yourself. And all those artists who are on that stage, even though they didn't get paid to perform, all of their songs are going to be streaming on Spotify. Oh, Spotify. Yes, Spotify. The same place that hopefully none of you listeners, because guess what? Shout out to you listeners right now. All of you right now, thank you. Because you're listening to this podcast and it's not on Spotify. You're listening to my podcast and it's not on Spotify because I walk that fucking walk. I listened, I waited. I wanted to see what the CEO of Spotify was going to say. You're going to keep a man like Joe Rogan on your podcast. You're going to give him $100 million. A man who said the N-word more than 100 times. And you're going to sit up there and act like by taking him off that you're silencing him as if he's a necessary fucking voice? Fuck you. I took my podcast off Spotify, as you all know. Several others have also done the same. I heard that Brittany Packnett Cunningham, who has her podcast, you know, the one who didn't talk to me for that Campaign Zero story, apparently after me, she took her podcast off Spotify. Well, look at that. Look at that. I'll just say, you're welcome. I'm happy that she's also joining the many podcasters of color like myself and other Black voices, taking their podcasts off Spotify. I think that that's the right move. A lot of other people should do it. Join our call to action. Please get off of Spotify. I am subscribed from their premium account. I took everything off. I have nothing to do with Spotify. I even unsubscribed from their email, from their newsletter, because they kept trying to remind me that I should re-up my stuff. I said, oh, I'm done, honey. I'm done. It's a done bun. I took everything off of Spotify. Took all my shit off of it. Take all that shit down. I was gangster with it. Even my you know, they made me these graphics for the show. Remember, I was so excited about Spotify. I like Spotify, you know, warped and wrapped. Remember, I was excited about it. I took all that shit down. I said, pack this shit the fuck up. I took it all down. I was done. I was done. And I'm consistent. But if you're out here going to listen to Eminem on your Spotify and support both of those entities because you can't. You don't have to have Spotify. All of y'all listening to my podcast right now, thank you. You're listening to it on Apple. You're going to Google Play. You're listening to it on Pandora. You listen to it on all the, Stitcher, wherever you listen to it at. Thank you. I'm saying this point that you don't have to fuck with Spotify. There's no reason why you have a Spotify account right now. Delete it. Delete it. Like, we have to take a stand for something. When is enough enough? Like, Joe Rogan, why? Why would you support a company that's literally telling you that this shit is okay? Because he's going to do it again. He's going to fuck up again. And all I'm saying is, what does it take for him to say? I'm not going to tell you what I think it is, but it ain't got anything to do with black people. But if he talked about some other communities, I bet you the response and the reaction will be a lot different. Maybe he'll get suspended for 2 weeks. Maybe he'll get suspended for 2 weeks. Because I guess the N-word doesn't hit like it used to some people. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just an offensive word and that's it. Maybe some other things have to be said for people to give a fuck. Maybe other communities have to also be disrespected in addition to black people. Because just offending black people is just not enough in America. No, it's not. No, he has to talk about other people. Maybe he just talks about the entire community. He talks about the LGBTQI community. He talks about Jewish people. He talks about Latinx people and Asian people all together. And guess what? He's kind of already has. He's insulted women. He said all kind of disgusting, ridiculous things. He has said ableist shit. I mean, he's a horrible person. But you know what? People want to act like he's seriously provocative. As if this show for the past hour has not been provocative enough. But I digress. So, speaking of other wild things happening out here, these celebrity sex tapes. You all have been asking me about these celebrity sex tapes. I have seen them. Even when I didn't want to see them, I saw them because you all sent them to my DMs on Twitter. Because now that my DMs are open because I want sources to talk to me on background, you all have also decided to send me porn. Guys, seriously. It's like, what you think about this? I'm sorry. What do I have to say about Nelly's dick? I don't know. What do I have to say about Nelly's dick? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's not for y'all. Maybe it's not for me. Maybe I should have an opinion. Maybe I should just mind my... Listen, all I will say about the Nelly situation is this. I have no opinions about the size of his penis. I'm not going to get into all of that. I will just say that I think as you get older, you may have projections about people, celebrities that may have been about your peak sexual awakening. You may have assumed, things about them that you might find later on underwhelming. And because of that underwhelmingness, you're just kind of like, yikes. But then at the same time, we're just kind of like, well, at this point in my life, I'm grown and I've had other things, maybe bigger than that, clearly. And then you just realize, well, I was never going to get it and therefore it doesn't ever matter. And why do I care? And if I don't care, why does it? Anyway, that's probably how I feel about that. Maybe I answered your question. Maybe not. But I just was just like, yikes. He said it was an accident. Okay. I just know people be out here talking about this hacking stuff. I'm just like, I don't understand. How did it get hacked? Maybe you just uploaded accidentally. But hacked? Okay. I don't know. I just think I don't know. I don't know what was achieved. I don't know what was going on there. So that's that. Then there's the conversation about Lil Fizz, because Lil Fizz, I guess, is on OnlyFans or something. And because that was circulating, I don't know why people are just, somebody must like it. I'm not sex shaming people. I'm just, I don't, If that's what he did with his consent and he wanted people to see it and that's what he wanted to do, okay, Fizz. Lil Fizz. And that's what he goes by, right? Little Fizz. The video could have been called Little Fizz. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, next topic on that. So, there's Isaiah Rashad. That's right, Isaiah Rashad. He is a rapper that is under Kendrick Lamar's rap label. I never really heard his music like that. I didn't know anything about him really. And then, of course, you all went to send, because there was an outing, apparently. So I saw the two videos. unfortunately. I was first. Of all, I was like, well, first of all, I was like, is this really him? And it was, of course. I mean, he was identifiable. I mean, the gold teeth and everything. One of the videos show him giving fellatio. The other videos show him receiving it from two other people. None of the people in these videos were white. I mean, it was of color. I'm sorry. It was, well, no, not take that back. None of them were black. We don't know what their racial identity was, but none of them were black. They were either white or non-black. People had opinions about that in the videos they saw. Well, as far as we know, he never publicly identified as being a queer black rapper at all. So people have taken this to say that whoever leaked this out basically outed him in a way that was not okay. Which is true. And I don't want to say a but here, but I just want to say, I mean, it's no one's business what any person's sexuality is, right? 100%. What I want to say is I think we need to... There was a lot of projection, right? That he was a rapper. So this is... Ernest, get your words right. Let me frame this correctly, because I know there's some intensive ears listening carefully to what I'm saying. And I want to make sure I am saying everything in the right structure and format and phrase, because I'm a man of my words. Okay. So there was a narrative that a lot of people was going about rappers being DL in the industry. Nicki Minaj had said something with Soulja Boy, oddly, on her show, and was asking about DL rappers, and he was just like as if he had something to offer about the conversation. But there had been this conversation like, oh, could Isaiah Rashad, this rapper, be DL? And it was like, it was just all of this. So I just want to just set some things straight here. Based on those videos, I don't think saying Isaiah Rashad was DL or on the down low is accurate. And why I would say that is because, as somebody who has met DL men, as somebody who knows DL men in the world, and I previously dated DL men when I was younger, I am very much aware of men who are on the low. Let me be clear. No man that's on the DL would ever have a video of him doing anything like that on any occasion. Let me just say, they would not have the video. They would not be willingly videotaping themselves giving another man fellatio or receiving it with other men and looking at the camera and telling those men and other things. In fact, in one of the videos, he said that he got paid to come somewhere and do some things. So it was almost giving that it could be possible sex work. Whatever the case is, I think to say that this man was DL is, I think, not DL. I don't think he is. I mean, DL, by how I know it, men like that, you would not know. They would not allow for any materials to leak. You would literally have to catch them in the act, sneak on them or something. But it would never be a situation where they would willingly and openly and casually be engaging in same-sex relations and that type of intimacy in that way. Because technically, by him doing the videos, even though he didn't consent to them being leaked, right? Let's be clear, right? We don't know, but he clearly did not consent to them being put out on the internet way. Maybe he did, maybe we really don't know. He hasn't really responded. But let's just say that it appears that he didn't himself put it out there. So the fact that they were in that risk level, a DL man would not take that kind of risk. So then if he's not DL, what could he possibly be? He could probably be a man that was in the closet, which does not, let's be clear. There's closeted, there's DL, there's other things. There's levels to this, y'all. I don't think he was on the DL. I think that he was a man who probably was just rapping and didn't disclose his sexuality because maybe he was like, look, it's none of you all's business. And also, too, maybe he wasn't dating women. He wasn't involved. It couldn't have to be that way. I think about Frank Ocean all the time. Frank Ocean clearly was not out here dating women openly or was in a relationship with any women when he had, somewhat told people about his queerness in his own way. We always just assume with black men that they have to be DL so that it can just make this thing and I think there's also stereotypes about hip hop, right? There's stereotypes like, oh, because he's a black man rapping, that there's a hyper masculine persona that by default, of course he wants, women, and it's like there's a lot of suggestions, but we're finding out more and more that that's not necessarily true. We have to stop these projections. Like, y'all projected he was straight. Did that man ever, like, I don't know, declare he was straight? Did he ever just outright say, I date women, I'm not with that quote unquote gay shit? Did he ever, like, outwardly? There are guys who are outwardly out here homophobic and violent, but also that. Now, to me, DL men are defined as men who outwardly lie, outwardly are homophobic, outwardly give every type of implication that they're straight, quote unquote, to try to hide and deny their actual sexual orientation. There are men like that, right? I don't think that was what he was giving. Like, I'm like, was he out here saying homophobic rap lyrics? Apparently was he out here, being toxic towards the LGBTQI community? Like, any of those things? He did not. Was he having a girlfriend that we publicly knew? Was he married? Does he have, none of that was the case. So in a way, it's like, what are you all upset about? Like, why do y'all think y'all stake claim or ownership to this man's sexuality? Like, why do y'all care? Why is it such a pressness? Like, where is the sense? Like, if this man had a private life that did not include you all in his bedroom, then that's his fucking business. And so I just kind of feel like, I just think that this is what shows the hypocrisy of people. Because I saw some people like, why can't he just live his truth? Well, shit, maybe he didn't live it. Maybe, first of all, who's to say he wasn't living his truth? Maybe he was living his truth. He wasn't lying to anybody, but maybe he wasn't disclosing either. It was private. And what did we say earlier in this podcast about living a private life? Sometimes stuff happened, but it wasn't like he was in a relationship with these men. Like, I don't think he was. It doesn't look like there was a romantic situation going on. But whatever the case was, it just seems to me that there's a lot of projection. Like, any of these NFL players, right, that are out here, y'all just assume these NFL players be gay. Be straight. These NBA players, y'all just assume they are straight. You're fucked up for that. You know that, right? Like, just because, some of these men may not outwardly say they're gay, but they don't outwardly say they're straight often either. Some of these men don't either way. We just be making assumptions about what masculine is supposed to be and what it's supposed to represent. And it's taken some time for me to think about it in that way. But now I get annoyed now. Like, I'm starting to see some issues here with that. Like, you're just out here assuming people's sexuality. Like, people assume people's gender. And then when people push back and tell you something different, then there's all of a sudden this person is coming out. This person is this. It's like, well, did they ever hide these things? Did they ever, mislead a person in a way that's romantic? Like, were they dating a woman the whole time and didn't disclose to the woman and lied to the woman or told the woman something? Like, what are we saying here when we call people DL? Like, there are people that are technically DL, right? We know those people. But a lot of times it's those Republicans in those bathrooms tapping their feet when they're married to get people in. That's DL, right? Not this rapper who's just out here minding his own business, doing what he want to do sexually, that does not involve any of you all. Did it impact the music? Did he lie to you all in the music? Did he say something in the music that said that he does not like gay people, that he doesn't like men? Like, I'm just trying to understand why there's that possession. Now, you want to talk about people that have been questionable or hypocritical? I will talk about Tyler, the Creator. Like, Tyler, the Creator used to just drop a bunch of problematic. Tyler, the Creator is so fucking weird to me. I think there needs to be a real conversation about some of the trash ass shit he used to say. People like his music now. People think he's queer, whatever. But he's just got a bunch of fuckery. And I don't think no one ever really confronts him on, like, dude, you really was out here making whole lyrics about raping people. Like, this is not okay. Like, can you address that? Like, that shit is not cool. Just saying the most ridiculous, violent ass emo shit or whatever and thinking that shit is okay. No, it's fucked up. I could never get into Tyler, the Creator, because I just remember how fucked up he was many years ago. And, like, I never really listened to him. And then apparently, I guess he's taking this different leap into his music and he's trying to evolve and his music sounds a lot different now. But I just would like him to talk about some of that previous shit he's done and, like, really, really, really address it openly for some big publication. Who knows? But, like, that's the stuff I'm thinking about. But this guy here, this Isaiah Rashad dude, I just, I hope he's well. He's rapped a lot about depression apparently and mental health and things. And I just hope that he's taking care of himself right now and being around the right people right now. And since we're talking about depression, mental health, and stuff, I guess I could switch into this conversation briefly. But their situation with Kanye and Kim, I said something on Twitter the other day about how I'm just so over the grifting. Like I'm just so over the shenanigans with them. Kanye has a documentary that's coming out this week, y'all, called Genius. That's coming out. Kim's about to drop The Kardashians, which is now going to be on Hulu. It's called The Kardashians. It's not Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It's called The Kardashians. And it's going to be on Hulu in March. They are both dropping big ass projects that are like big fucking deals. And of course, Donda 2 is supposed to be coming out at the end of February. So like Kanye got projects coming up. This is massive marketing. I am sorry. Every time we think the shit is getting real, it never fucking gets real. All of these falling outs, these beefs, all this petty shit. I think there is some real drama in it, but I also think that at the same time, this is him, just demanding the public's attention. And I just hate that it's just so they're so oversaturated. They're annoying. And then Kim now is trying to be quiet and trying to play the whole, I'm just trying to get away from my crazy ass husband. Girl. Listen, nobody deserves that. I feel bad for these kids. I feel bad for all these children that they have. Because the children did not choose this lifestyle. The children did not choose for both of their parents to be attention-seeking whores. They did not choose for this lifestyle for their kids. The kids did not choose it. So I actually feel bad for these children. I just want these children to be safe. These beautiful black children to be safe. I want them to be protected from all of this nonsense. Because it's so weird, because as much as there's this narrative of Kanye's a dangerous dad and whatever, why does he keep getting access to the kids? Why does he keep getting them if they don't know what's wrong with him? Like, if he's supposed to have all these issues, why is he still getting access of his kids? So something just don't sit right with me. If they really, if this man is having a real mental, emotional breakdown on social media, who is in his team taking his fucking phone? I just think it's just, do y'all really not give a fuck about him? Like, he says that he has bipolar disorder and other issues and meds and all this. Okay, if that is the case, who is taking him out? Who's calling the people? Who's calling the 11 or 12 or whoever? Who's getting his ass and taking him? Where is the conservatorship for his ass like they have for Britney? What the fuck is going on? And you want to talk about a double standard? Look what's happened to Wendy Williams. They're saying Whitney Williams has mental health issues. Wells Fargo want to freeze accounts and assets. It's so funny how, Wendy got to be locked down, but y'all sitting around here gassing up Kanye and acting like this is hilarious, this is fun. This is a hot ass mess. Take me out of this group chat. Mr. West, Miss Kardashian, take me out of this group chat right now. I want no parts of it. I'm sick of it. On my timeline, I have to see all this shit. Take me out. But it's a mess. It's a whole mess. And then I look at Wendy, and Wendy's about to lose her show. Sherry Shepherd's supposed to be a temporary host, but you already know how that goes. Temporary, you know what that means? Interim, which means ouster. Wendy has a lot of money on the line, so they're trying to work with her. But it's a little sad. It's sad. Whatever's going on, Wendy, it's sad. It's sad. It's sad. Because I did see the Wendy Williams movie that it came out about a year ago. And, it just looked very like that she was getting her life together. She was getting out that relationship. And then now everything is starting to just, kind of fall apart right now. And it's a lot. It's a lot to see. I hope she is well. What a week. What a month. So I'm going to briefly say this. These state races, everybody's been asking me about what I've been thinking about the local elections and races. Stuff has been changing very quickly. I just want everybody to know that honestly, right now, there's a lot of people announcing they're running. I just want people to understand that these maps in Harrisburg has not been established. You may or may not have a new state rep based on what's going on with these maps. The maps have not been official. You don't know who's running your district yet. You don't know what's going on right now. You might have somebody that you think is running, but they may not be running because they might be in a different zip code or something. The maps have not been straightened out, so I would tell people to hold your goddamn horses. That's one. Two, and I'm talking about Pennsylvania specifically in Philadelphia. Two, I'm at this phase where there's a lot of people announcing and running for office. Congress, Senate, state rep, all these things. And honestly, until people get on the damn ballot, that is when I will entertain or take a lot of these people seriously. Now, incumbents, I'm looking at these incumbents because incumbents typically get on ballots. They don't have any issues most of the time. But these newcomers, these fresh faces, I'm looking at you, I'm seeing you, but honestly, I'm not seeing you until you get on the ballot. That's how I feel about this mayoral race. There's all these people talking to people, trying to entertain, they're going to run, but you got to resign and run, city council people. Who is going to really quit and run? Who's going to really say, bye-bye six-figure salary, I'm going to run the race where I might lose it all? Who's going to really lose it all and put it all on the table? I want to see it. I want to see it because right now it's a lot of talking, but we're going to find out this year. Until I see these city council people resigning or these city officials resigning, that's when I'm going to be like, okay, now I can look at it. Because right now it's a lot of smoke. And I'm just like, the money, I'm not seeing enough energy, right? I made some early predictions. I'm looking at my predictions. But right now I'm not giving it too much energy because, again, you're not a candidate to me until you're on the ballot and I can actually vote for you or I can consider you, right? But all this, I'm thinking about it, I'm exploring, all that bullshit, man, save for the birds. Because right now, we just don't know. Like, I'm hearing like, oh, Sharif Street, that whole hype about him running for Congress, that might not even happen because of the way these maps are working. So he's just becoming the man that done cried wolf. Like every time, right? There's always it was supposed to be Senate and then Malcolm and then now it was supposed to be Congress. Now it may not be Congress now. Maybe he'll just sit down. And then I hear he might be sniffing for mayor. Like, what is going on? Exactly. When this map gets resolved, when we know what it's going to be, then you'll hear an update from me on these state races, these local races. Because until that gets established, until we know where it's going, I'm not about to sit up here and make any outcome forecast because right now everything's up in lingo. So I'll just put that there. So lastly, there's just been a lot of good things going on TV. Things good on TV, things bad on TV, things I'm like, what the hell is going on? So for starters, Power Force, the one about Tommy, I'm enjoying it. It's different. It's different. I kind of appreciate it more than the Raising Kanan episode of show series. I really wasn't feeling that season. But Power Ghost Book 2, yo, that finale, oh my God. Mary J. Blige is having a week, right? The Power finale. She got that new album, her Super Bowl appearance. But she's doing some good things right now. Mary is making her comeback. And talk about Halle Berry. Halle Berry, 55 and fine, okay? She's just been out here, man. I just love Halle. Her career has been resurging. But I've been liking the new Power Force. I'm trying to take a break. I want to watch it in bulk. I don't want to just watch them week by week because it just gets me too angsty and I get all excited and I can't hold myself. I gotta wait for all the episodes to accumulate some more before I get into it. But I like what I saw with the pilot episode. It's very promising. Tommy having his own show. At first I was kind of like, this is gonna be annoying, but actually this is doing pretty all right. I'm feeling it. This Inventing Anna show that is the new show by Shonda Rhimes. I don't know. I just feel like it's just dredged in white privilege. I'm not really feeling it. Julia, lead actress, playing it. I mean, it's supposed to be based on that New Yorker. I think it was a New Yorker story that came out. I've read it. I don't know. I just feel like we don't really get. I don't want to tell too much of it. Actually, I'm gonna let y'all watch it, but I just feel like there was a lot lacking in it, and I just feel like it doesn't have all the excitement and intrigue that people liked about some of the other Shonda's projects with Netflix, which was, of course, the show that everybody liked, that everybody's waiting for. Shall I say, there's a lot of shows on Netflix that has been happening, but a lot of people just have had mixed reviews. There's not enough inventing with Anna. That's what I'll say. I'll say there's not been a lot of inventing with Anna, in my opinion. The Gilded Age, been watching that. Love it a lot. Been really feeling that. Bridgerton. So I'm thinking about Bridgerton. Like, Bridgerton had this real big excitement around it when it came out. That's not what's happening with Inventing Anna. I hear people talking about it, but I don't. The verdict is still out for me on it. I'll just say that. Other shows I've been watching, Gilded Age, I like. I've been finding that fun. It's giving me that, you know, Downton Abbey energy, which is from the same creators, which I like. And there's going to be a new Downton Abbey movie coming out soon, which I love the first movie. I really, really liked it. Jamarcus and I both went to go see it, and we just was here for it. It was a really good time. Other shows. Okay, Bel Air. It's on Peacock. Just came out like this weekend. It's on Peacock, y'all. It's the Fresh Prince of Bel Air show. It's a whole thing. Look, I just want to say this before I don't want to tell the show. But what I will say is I like that the lead actor's from Philly. I like that they are shooting in Philly. They shot on 60th Street. There is some Philly imagery in Bel Air. Like it is, West Philadelphia, born and raised. However, if you think you're watching a redo of this, the best way to describe this is that, okay, let's say you watched Archie. Like you watched the Archie cartoons and you really loved Archie. And then you turned around and you watched Riverdale, which was based off of the Archie comics and characters, and like this very different spinoff with these characters, but there's like a different story. That's basically what Bel Air is for the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, like the original show. It's not the comedy. It's it's drama. It's a drama. There is some humor in it, but it's very grown, current, very like descriptive. It that magical, whimsical stuff that kind of made the comedy wonderful, it's going a different direction. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I just think that whatever your expectations might be, thinking it's going to be like a remake or something, it's not that. Some of the characters look different. Some of them work, some of them don't. I won't get into it. But I am intrigued. I was intrigued. I think it was fun to watch. I did appreciate it. I like the blackness of it. And I also like that I did appreciate it. I wasn't, some critics have been a little hard on it, but I think that's because they're white critics and they're kind of expecting something different. I'm like, y'all, it was not supposed to be a comedy. But I see some growth. I see some ways of improvement. But I do appreciate it, though. I find it fascinating, and I don't want you to sleep on the show. You should watch it. And then, last but not least, this Tinder swindler, y'all. What the fuck? Love bombing. What the fuck was that? First, all I gotta say is when we say the caucasity of it all, this is what we mean by the caucasity of it all. I'm sorry, there is no Tinder swindler like this with black people. Where is that show? Because one, the black man would have been locked up. If the black woman would have been the one that been the victim in this way, y'all wouldn't have given a fuck. like this is so, oh my God. Like these are like white tails. Like I just watched this and I was just like, there's so many things where it was just like, I'm not saying people deserve to be used because no one deserves to be used. But I just think more people should think not to give any financial investment or money to a stranger. Stop giving money to strangers. Stop giving money to strangers. Stop giving money to strangers. I'm not victim blaming anybody. I'm telling people in general, do not give money to strangers. And if you give money to strangers, give it to them with the hopes of getting nothing back. So when I go down the street and I'm walking down 52nd Street, and if I just so happen to have some cash and I give it to somebody that's asking, that's in need or homeless, listen, if I make the decision to give that person that money, I'm giving them that money. I'm not thinking about it. I'm on my conscience. If they said they need it for food and they're being honest, I'm going to give them that money for food. If they go out and use it for something else, I'm not going to, I'm going to believe you have good faith and hope that they do the right thing. Right? That's all we can do. Hell, we give our money to the government in taxes every fucking year, and we hope they do the right thing with it, right? So don't judge the person down the street that's asking for that money. Don't act like they are all using it for things that they don't need to be using it for. Let's have faith in people who are in some desperate situations, right? So that's how I feel about some of this. I'm just like, if you are giving somebody, a stranger, someone you don't know, money, and you think that's going to equate to love or sex or something, that's already a recipe for disaster. So when I was watching this, I was like, he's supposed to be a baller, but I don't want to tell it all, but just watch it if you want to watch it. But just prepare yourself to just be like, this is some fuckery. That literally, I think the first little episode vignette I was watching, I was like, this is some fuckery. This is already wrong. This is already wrong. People like this exist, but you know, I must say, because one of my friends brought this up, Ronald. He said this, and I agree with him. People say, how does the Tinder swindler exist? Now, in the black community, I'm not saying that we don't have those type of men that exist, because there are every vulnerability and manipulation happening in every community. However, I will say that the Tinder swindler exists in the nonprofit sphere. I have seen those people like what I consider people like Nehemiah Davis and these folks that go out here preaching this gospel about how they're going to help people and support communities and this and ask for money and people give money, don't know where it's going. I do see a lot of the nonprofit swindlers in our communities, right? The poverty pimps and stuff. So we have those elements out there. They may not be Tinder swindlers in the romantic sense, but they also do exploit poverty and other issues that impact our community. And I think that we don't take enough time to do documentaries about those types of people, because to me, those are the ones that really be showing their ass. I don't get caught up in love and giving money. If I gave money to a dude or something back in the day that wasn't shit, best believe it wasn't anything I was losing. I wasn't losing my rent. I wasn't losing any money for anything else. If I gave that money, look, if I gave it, it's yours. It was money that I made up in my mind. It wasn't an investment. You wasn't my child. I wasn't claiming you in my taxes. You know, we wasn't married. Whatever those situations were, you just do. I tell people that all the time. If I give somebody something, I give it. I really do. Like I would hope for respect and dignity, but I would expect it back if it's a gift, if I give it in that kind of way. I've watched enough Judge Judy to know that gifts are gifts and loans are loans, and you better make sure you make it clear at the very beginning. So, until then, as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.